Motion in the name of the Honourable Prime Minister and Minister for Itoke Affairs and Sugar Industry.
The Honourable Prime Minister and Minister for Itoke Affairs and Sugar Industry to move his motion.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise to speak in support of a motion we are tabling for Fiji to rejoin the Inter-Parliamentary Union.
Thank you. Is there a seconder?
Madam Speaker, I second the motion.
Thank you. I now call on the Honourable Prime Minister to continue.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. As I said, Madam Speaker, I rise to speak in support of a motion that we are tabling for Fiji to rejoin the Inter-Parliamentary Union. We do so with the express purpose of strengthening our democracy by fostering relations with other parliaments around the world, and to, of course, improve our own ability to serve the Fijian people through the exchange of information, training, and our attendance at conferences and workshops organized by the IPU and its global membership. The IPU is an international organization of parliaments established in 1889, and I understand New Zealand is also part of this, and to encourage dialogue between our institutions, to work for peace and cooperation, and to strengthen the principle of representative democracy. It works in close cooperation with the United Nations, whose objective it shares, as well as intergovernmental and non-governmental organizations on every continent. Madam Speaker, the IPU is an important way in which all of us, as elected representatives of the Fijian people, can have dialogue with citizens representatives of other nations, to exchange ideas, to learn from each other, and to improve our ability to serve the people we represent. There are currently 166 members and 10 associate members of the IPU stretching across the globe. Now that Parliament has reconvened after the general election last September, in which, of course, the Fiji First Party won convincingly, the government definitely won't belong. In some people's case, the government proposes to rejoin the organization to begin rebuilding and strengthening the old ties we once shared with MPs around the world, to re-engage with them for the benefit of Fijian MPs, and of course to foster closer relations with our counterparts elsewhere. Madam Speaker, this motion arises from the visit you made to the United Kingdom in January of this year at the head of a parliamentary delegation. During your study tour of the Parliament of Westminster in London, the Scottish Parliament and the National Assembly of Wales, you and a delegation also had a meeting with the Secretary General of the IPU, Mr. Martin Chengong. He expressed a keen interest in having the Fijian Parliament rejoin the organization to benefit from the experience we have as Pacific Islanders, and for us all to begin taking advantage again of what the IPU had to offer. I'm very pleased as Prime Minister to lend my support to the idea and to introduce this motion into the Parliament, because anything that strengthens our democracy and our ability to serve the Fijian people deserves our support. And we can learn a great deal through person-to-person contacts with our fellow MPs around the world. The IPU slogan is for democracy for everyone. In essence, the 47,000 MPs who are members commit themselves to serving ordinary people wherever they may be, and to uphold the principle of parliamentary democracy and representative government. Madam Speaker, the IPU has a specific commitment to gender equality, to empower women around the world, and to encourage more women to pursue parliamentary careers and give women a genuine voice in the formulation of national policies. Your selection by the members of this chamber to be Speaker is a powerful symbol of our own commitment to achieve gender equality in Fiji. And as I continually stress in this Parliament and elsewhere, every Fijian needs to support the principle of empowering our women, giving them the voice they deserve, and enabling them to reach their full potential through the strict implementation of a transparent merit-based system. Of course, gender equality is only part of the IPU's agenda, and certainly its broad principles are such that every single member of this House can agree on them, and they are to foster context, coordination and exchange of experience among parliaments and parliamentarians of all countries, consider questions of international interest and express his views on such issues with the aim of bringing action by parliaments and their members, to contribute to the defense and promotion of human rights, which are universal in scope and respect for which is an essential factor of parliamentary democracy and development. And last but not least, to contribute to better knowledge of the working of representative institutions and to strengthen and developing their means of action. In short, Madam Speaker, belonging to the IPU provides the following benefits: the exchange of ideas, turning those ideas into action for the benefit of the people we represent as MPs, and promoting human rights and strengthening democratic institutions. These are all the principles that are at the heart of our Constitution and the foundations on which this Parliament exists. We all, Madam Speaker, are here in this Parliament because of the genuine expression of the political will of the Fijian people in September last year. A place where we all must be committed to serve all Fijians to the best of our ability, whether they voted for us or not. Only this approach will strengthen our own democracy as a foundation for a strong nation, which we already are, and an even stronger nation we intend to become. Madam Speaker, I commend to the House our motion to rejoin the Inter-Parliamentary Union and seek the support of all members of this bill, for this bill. Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Prime Minister. The Honorable Ratu Nenga Malalambalabo.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I rise with the concurrence of the Leader of the Opposition to make a brief statement on our behalf regarding the motion that is before this august House. Madam Speaker, from the outset, there are kind of two pictures that this side of the House is scrutinizing in terms of this motion, and that is one, to rejoin the IPU, or the Inter-Parliamentary Association, the Union, and secondly, coming from the government. We are trying to rejoin this Inter-Parliamentary Union here, and having the motion coming from, having the motion from the Honorable Prime Minister, I would say from the outset it's commendable, it's timely, and also to say that at last he's coming out from his shell. We hibernated for the last 8 years. We hibernated for the last 8 years. Now he's coming out, and we commend him for that. Yeah. This is democracy, Honorable Prime Minister, and what you've done is commendable in taking us back to where we were before. But before we take that full jump or leap, let me remind the Honorable Prime Minister, Madam Speaker, we also have a sister parliamentary association that comes under the Commonwealth. It would have been great if we had the two parliamentary associations come together or put together in this motion, because just recently the chief advisor to the Honorable Prime Minister, the Attorney General, was pictured in one of the dailies shaking hands with the Secretary General of the Commonwealth in London, giving him a copy of the Constitution, the 2030 Constitution. But surprisingly, having just come back from the Commonwealth office, why didn't he advise the Prime Minister to rejoin the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association as well? Madam Speaker, we have your counterpart from the New Zealand Parliament here, the Speaker of the New Zealand Parliament, and as well as members of Parliament of New Zealand. They've been here with us thick and thin. They've been with us all these years. and especially through the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association. Most of us have had the benefit to attend meetings and seminars carried out by the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association. Honourable Prime Minister, the opposition would like to ask you, request you, sir, please consider the Parliamentary Association, Commonwealth Parliamentary Association as well, because these are two great institutions that we have a lot to learn from in how they practice democracy within their parliamentary systems. The one with the IPU, we have countries that we do not know of right now as to how they practice this democracy that we want to promote here. These are countries that are quite new and foreign to us. So before we take this jump to go outside of the Commonwealth, we would like to request the Honourable Prime Minister, if in future, or at a later date, or not in the too distant future, to consider the Parliamentary Association as well, because it will help us, Madam Speaker, not only how Parliament is being run, especially with the great and laborious duty and decisions that befall your good office, Madam Speaker. I know and we all understand from this side that you're still learning. We're all still learning.
Order.
But if we join all
Do
this...
not bring the Speaker into this debate.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It's just that it helps us to learn, and we don't close our doors, we open it, and hopefully, if the Prime Minister can take this leap forward with this motion, Madam Speaker, I was wondering as to why then we left aside this PIF, the Pacific Island Forum, and try and form our own, when here we're doing exactly the opposite. And this is the very picture that I said from the outset. This is something that we're looking at, and it kind of is clouding our view as to where the Prime Minister is coming from. But again, Madam Speaker, we commend this great motion here to rejoin the Inter-Parliamentary Association, but at the same time, put our request on notice that Commonwealth Parliamentary Association be put on notice as well. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. I'll kindly remind honourable members always to keep the Speaker out of the debate. Thank you. The Honourable Voreqe.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I wish to contribute to the motion, to this dialogue on this motion before the House today. Yes, at the outset, let me say that we commend this. It's about time Fiji rejoins the global community in its entirety. We've been out there in the wilderness for 8 years, in darkness. It's time to come back, Madam Speaker. And Madam Speaker, just on that victory by Fiji First, if you count all those who did not vote for Fiji First, there's only a 9% differential. So let's not get overboard about this landslide victory that they tend to boast about. Only 9%. Madam Speaker, we want our people, everyone, to sit at the same table as everyone globally. We used to be like that. This morning we had students from the university. We have empowered our 18-year-old to vote. Madam Speaker, it is our duty as parents, as leaders of this country, to give them the world as their oyster. We must open up the world for them. And I commend this. I commend this rejoining IPU. Likewise, we should rejoin the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association. But Madam Speaker, there is a famous Fijian word, saying, idiom, which says, Tekibuma is Jerusalem. Start from Jerusalem. Start from Jerusalem. Where is your Jerusalem? Our neighborhood. The Pacific Islands Forum. They are in our neighborhood, Madam Speaker. We join them here and we build regional bases, we go global. That is how you do this thing. You don't go into the world when forgetting your Jerusalem, forgetting your home. Our colleagues from New Zealand and Australia are in our neighborhood, an economy of $1.3 trillion. Why would we not turn our back against them and go to outside of our homes? Start from the neighborhood, Madam Speaker. Start from our neighborhood. Madam Speaker, we commend this. we want it to go ahead. But let this be the beginning of the opening of Fiji, which we deserve. As you know, the whole country is now watching, enjoying these parliamentary debates, enjoying the democracy. Let's take it to its fullness. IPU, Commonwealth Pacific, Commonwealth Association, and PIF, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, the Honourable Attorney General.
No, Madam Speaker.
No, age before 50.
I'm calling on the Honourable Member that stood up first, and that was the Honourable Attorney General.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to support the motion that's been put on the floor by the Honourable Prime Minister. Sometimes when you listen to the comments from the opposition, you tend to forget what are they actually trying to say. The motion on the floor is that whether we join IPU or not. And we need to support this joining of the IPU. No doubt you could not be a member of IPU post-2006 because we did not have a parliament. We now have a parliament, Madam Speaker, that is now been hailed and is elected on a truly democratic system based under this Constitution. Under this Constitution, Madam Speaker, where there is equal value of every single Fijian as far as the vote is concerned. We can talk about that, Madam Speaker, for hours till the cows come home. This Constitution is the one that's given the voting age being reduced to 18 years through this Constitution. Madam Speaker, issues regarding the Commonwealth was raised. Yes, we were in London. The Secretary General of the Commonwealth will be visiting Fiji very soon. And of course, this is part of the work that's been carried out through our Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And these motions will obviously take place. And we'll be seeing the fruits of these relationships that has been developed through the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. So, Madam Speaker, to cut it short and without diverging or diverging away from the topic, we rise in support of this motion. We believe that it is a good association. Madam Speaker, ultimately, the reality is that joining IPU is not just simply to go off to conferences and have a bit of a perk on this. The idea is to strengthen democracy and actually believe in it. Because there are many people, or some people in this House, Madam Speaker, they only use democracy when it suits them. The idea is to inculcate, to engender the actual belief in democracy, the actual belief in equal opportunity. And this is what we hope, Madam Speaker, in particular giving exposure to the members of the opposition through the IPU process, they will actually believe in it. Because many of them, Madam Speaker, in the events of 2087, they actually believed in that. They believed in the overthrow of governments. But because that form or that elected member of government did not suit them, that is basically, Madam Speaker, is a reality for them. So the idea of joining IPU, Madam Speaker, will in fact hopefully educate many members of this House, in particular those from the opposition, to believe in true democracy, and I support this motion. Vinaka, thank you.
Thank you. The Honourable Biman Prasad, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I commend the Honourable Prime Minister for bringing this motion, and it's heartening that Fiji will join this 166 member organisation. The IPU is also a permanent, or also has a permanent observer status at the UN, and I think that is very helpful. I was also heartened by, Madam Speaker, by the Prime Minister's statement when he was moving the motion or speaking on the motion, and he talked about strengthening democratic institutions. And my Learned Attorney General, I remember presenting this constitution to the Secretary General of the Commonwealth, and Madam Speaker, this constitution led to the general election, and therefore we have this parliament. And Madam Speaker, when we talk about strengthening democratic institutions, and the Prime Minister has a real opportunity, Madam Speaker, to leave a legacy for this country. And we all believe that we are making a start. We want to strengthen democratic institutions in this country. But Madam Speaker, you cannot strengthen democracy if you have Section 173 in the Constitution, which says that all the decrees that was used by the previous government to govern from December 2006 until the last decree on parliamentary amendments before the Parliament set is all intact. And I want to say to the Prime Minister that perhaps as a Parliament, as a country, it is time for us to look at some of those decrees. In particular, Madam Speaker, the media decree, which is very, very draconian, the political parties decree, the electoral decree, and if we want to bring genuine democracy, which the Prime Minister quite rightly talks about, if we want to bring genuine democracy in this country, Madam Speaker, we need to look at Section 173. Section 173 4C. I'm speaking on the motion, Madam Speaker. It's related to the motion. And let me repeat this. Let me repeat this to the Prime Minister, that he can leave a legacy, Madam Speaker. And I call upon him. I call upon him to show real courage. He asked me to show real courage. To set up a parliamentary committee to review some of these decrees and let this Parliament repeal some of those decrees. That's when we will be part of a bigger global community, and I'm very happy. I commend the Prime Minister. I thank him for bringing this motion to get Fiji to join the IPU. And I do hope that he will consider looking at some of these provisions that are there, which will indeed strengthen democratic institutions in this country, and we will leave a legacy for our future generations, Madam Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. I call on the Honourable Tipundrendalo.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I join the honourable members on this side in commending the motion. We do support the rejoining of the IPU, and we note that the IPU, Madam Speaker, was, when it was initially set up, it was to arbitrate conflicts, which is helpful to us in this country. And now its primary focus is democracy. And I thank the learned attorney for reminding us of consistency in believing in democracy and democratic principles. We are 2 days short, Madam Speaker, of 28 years since the first coup. We really need these principles, Madam Speaker, to be brought home much more strongly than it has been in the past. As my learned colleague talked about one term about starting at Jerusalem, there is another one that I usually like to point out to voters when I'm talking to them, the electorate, and it's the term Voreqe. It means sweeping things under the carpet. And Madam Speaker, if we are to rejoin the IPU and the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association, all lovely, wonderful things, Madam Speaker, but as the attorney has said, and I agree, I hope it's just not another perk. I hope it means substantive things for this country. And I hope the members of IPU and the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association, prominent members are sitting in this House from our neighboring country, New Zealand. I hope they put a little bit more effort and not mirror the denial and Voreqe that's elevated in this country to an art form. We really do, Madam Speaker. And it is rather unfortunate that sometimes I see in the foreign policy of our friends the same things, sweeping things under the carpet. So then as long as we have any elections, in spite of what the Honourable Member has said about the problems with the Constitution, so long as we have elections, some members are elected, we're all sitting in this nice, beautiful building, we call ourselves members of Parliament, yourself as the Speaker, but we are forgetting the damage to the institutions that have occurred since 1987. Our institutions have crumbled with every coup, got worse and worse with every coup, Madam Speaker. And I just hope, in supporting the Honourable Prime Minister and his endeavour, and I join my Honourable Leader, and I think that he can leave his mark, ironic for some, but he really can leave his mark to end this coup culture if we do more substantive things in this country And that includes having the hard discussions about that institution, which I won't name, because I get embarrassed about it too, because my family was very much part of that institution as well, Madam Speaker. And I wouldn't be laughing because they would be the primary beneficiaries of all this that I'm saying, now that they are elected, Madam Speaker. But if we did more substantive things in this country, it'll augur well for peaceful, long-term stability, and that's the only thing that will help our democracy. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honourable Minister for
Madam Speaker, I
Health
just
and
rise to support the motion that's before the House for our going back into the Inter-Parliamentary Union. And I think there's been a lot of statements made this morning that are distracting from the purpose of the motion. There's been a lot of talk about leaving a legacy. I think the legacy is already here. If we are talking about the kinds of things that we need to leave a legacy in this country to move us forward, it's found in this Constitution. It's also found in the leadership of the Prime Minister, who has made sure that we stop being myopic, stop separating ourselves, but begin to see ourselves as one country. This is the thing that will leave a legacy for this country. That's how we will get development. We forget about grouping ourselves into little groups and think about the principles that are here. Once we do that, if we can live by that, then we will leave a legacy for the children that will follow us. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you. The Honourable Sawathana Rondo. Thank you. I will now give the floor to the Honourable Prime Minister to speak in reply.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I request that we put the proposal to the House and ask for the endorsement. The motion, of course.
Thank you. The Parliament will now vote. Does any member oppose that the Fijian Parliament rejoin the Inter-Parliamentary Union? And the motion is therefore agreed to unanimously, and I thank you very much, honourable members.